everything. I am Ruben Paul, and once again, I'm joined by my brother from another mother, one of the most annoying guys on the planet.
I was sharing it, my bad.
Mr. Johnny Sanchez. What's going on, brother? How you doing, man?
Mr. Johnny Dirty Sanchez. Read it right.
Whatever, dude. How are you, brother? You good?
I'm good, man. You know, letting a little bit of this come out. I wanted to see how much. I remember I grew this out about 5 years ago. Remember I had a beard. It's interesting because, man, I had way more black back then. And you know what made me shave it was, you know, when you get told you look like somebody and you're just like, But I remember I had it pretty long, and then someone went, "Hey, you look like Ray Romano."
Wow.
I shaved it the next day.
Wow, you look nothing. Well,
if I showed you the photo, it was, remember when he did that show, Men of a Certain Age or something like that?
Yeah.
And he had grown his beard. Honestly, when I look at the photo, I was like, I get it. But
you do look a little bit like, I could see the Ray Romano like in the cheeks and the eyes a little bit.
Yeah, and then
Ray's handsome.
With a beard, then it was a lot. It was a lot. I was a little thinner too, man. I got this quarantine weight going on. You know what I'm saying? I'm on the quarantine diet. Wow. I'm starting off with the puns already, right off the bat, right out of the chute. All right.
So let me introduce our guest to everyone. The guy that you see at the bottom of your screen, chirping in and laughing. For you guys who are listening and not watching, this next comic I've known for a long time. Very underrated comic. Been in the business a long time. Hails from Buffalo, New York. We became friends when he moved to Los Angeles. You've seen him on Showtime. He was on the Andrew Dice Clay special on Showtime. You might have heard him on the D.L. Hughley radio show. Yes,
I know you heard me on the radio. True.
Radio. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Mr. Steve Wilson.
Oh.
What's going on, Ruben and Johnny? How y'all doing, man?
Hey, wait a minute, my friend. I wonder if it was on earlier. Toby, my friend Toby from back home said, "Wake and bake, Steve." Were we on earlier before we?
No. She saw Steve pull the joint up.
He was pulling it out. Okay.
And that was a cigarette.
That was a cigarette.
And this is what Kelly said: we all gonna need to lose pounds. Well, I'm back down 5 already, which I'm.
How'd you do that?
Just stop eating late, man. Because you know, here's the thing, man. We have so much time on our hands where we don't realize, like, when we're active, when we're out and about and running errands, those are times when you don't have to eat.
Yeah.
And when you're home, and even if you work out and you're just sitting there and the hours go by and you're spending, you got to think we're spending damn near 24 hours a day inside, man. So that's a lot more time to sit around and
not good for us at all.
You
Let
know,
alone that not being good for us. I mean, I know I put on at least 5 pounds, but
Well, you need it.
Who else just chimed in? The one and only Jeff Keller. Hey, Jeff.
Man. What's happening, man?
Man, how you doing, Jeff? I haven't seen Jeff in a while. For you guys who are listening, not watching, we're live on Facebook now, and people are joining in and leaving comments. But we have a lot to talk about. Steve is when I think of Steve Wilson, I think of perseverance and one of the unsung soldiers in this comedy business. Johnny always uses the example that we're the Navy SEALs of the entertainment industry. And when I think of somebody like Steve, Steve has been a road warrior. Now, Steve, when did you start doing comedy?
Well, if we can be honest, if ain't nobody in the industry listening, 1987. I started in 87. I was a kid. I was 17 years old. But I actually really, really started in 1979 when I was a kid, man. My grandfather used to, I'm really showing my age. Like, so they used to be called home box office back then, right? So my grandfather ran this cable from his house to our house, and we plugged it in this 13-inch TV where we had cable TV, man. I saw this cat named Robert Klein. Yeah. And he had this joke called "I Can't Stop My Leg," man, when he was playing a harmonica.
Yes.
I thought it was the funniest shit ever, man. He had on these bell bottoms. He looked all cool. I ain't never seen a Jewish cat look cool. And I was like, yo, this nigga cool. And I wanted to be this nigga. And I started trying to tell jokes in school and started messing up. And that's when I knew I had something when I got left back in 5th grade. But I mean, listen, I was so funny they want me to perform again. That's how I say it.
So Steve, you immediately, because I know Johnny talks about how he used to perform for his parents in the living room, his parents and family. Did you took what you saw on TV and went to school and started doing the routines that young?
I would sit at home. So here, this is a true story. I'm about to get really dark so you can know how this thing. So I used to have an uncle, if you watch my act, who used to beat me all the time, right? So if you watch my act, he used to beat me all. So one day, he pulled me aside. He asked me what I wanted to do for a living. And he was going to whoop my ass anyway. So I said, fuck it, I'm just going to tell him the truth. And I was like, I want to be a comedian. And for some reason that resonated with him. And he was like, tell me more. And I was waiting on him to hit me. And he didn't. And I was like, well, yeah, I was watching this dude named Robert Klein. He was like, no, you need to start watching some black cats. And I was like, oh, shit. And we had like a little bit of a connection. He started telling me about this dude, Slappy White. And he started telling me about these other cats. And I had already heard of Flip Wilson because my last name was Wilson. But he started telling me about these other cats. He's like, go to the library and stuff. And I was like, oh, shit. And it just made me want to be it more because I was like, it's something that's, because he ain't gonna whoop my ass and made me want to be a comedian more.
Yeah. So Steve, so you started at 17. Johnny, do you have anything you want to ask him?
Well, you know how big of I was doing. It's funny you bring up Flip Wilson because I was doing Flip Wilson impressions. Remember, his Geraldine. Remember Geraldine?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and what you see is what you get and all that. But I was a little kid. I was 3, 4, 5 years old, something like that. So very familiar. The only person I'm not that familiar with is Slappy White. I didn't catch up later on, but I've heard that name quite a few times.
Slappy White, I believe, was a huge Vegas actor. Am I correct about that, Steve? Wasn't he big in Vegas?
That part I don't know, but I just started looking for other comics, and actually after I saw Richard Pryor, I was hooked.
Man, we talk about that all the time. Once I heard Dracula meets the Wino meets Dracula, dude.
I mean, anything that this man did, I saw him in 1979 when Patti LaBelle opened up for him. Remember, he had on the red shirt and the black pants.
Mm-hmm.
And it was brilliance, and it was like I wanted to be able to perform like that. And
well, the first comedian I ever heard live was Red Fox, and Johnny, you met my friend who introduced me to comedy at a very young age, and it blew my mind. But just like both you and Johnny, when I heard Richard Pryor, man,
right,
to me that was like it was just he just blew my mind. And if we really think about Pryor, we all talk about his brilliance and for him to be able to even resonate with kids, you know what I mean? Yeah. When you think about that at that age, because he was telling stories that, especially if you were Black or if you were, in Johnny's case, Mexican, we probably understood more of the hardships even at a young age. Like we probably got it, even though we probably didn't get it to the same level as adults got it. Just again goes to his brilliance of being able to tell stories and paint pictures. But at 17, Steve, how did you know where to go to perform comedy?
I had a cool ass mom, man. I was like, believe it or not, I started fucking up so much in school. And one day I used to go down every day. I would just get home from school and run downstairs because in 1986 on HBO they did every hour special. So it was Seinfeld, Paul Rodriguez, Bobcat Goldthwait, Elaine Boozler,
Elaine, yeah.
But it was just a whole bunch of comics. I would just go home and Paul Rodriguez, and I would just study these cats and Jerry Seinfeld, and they all had specials. I would just watch each hour and study how they talked about their family. I said, okay, so how can I talk about my family like that? And I was just learning from these cats. And then I started writing, and my mom would hear me downstairs talking to myself, and she thought I was going a little crazy. So she pulled my bluff, Had some cats. I came home from school. It was two cats sitting on the couch, like, "Yo, you want to do this talent competition? We heard you a comedian." And I was like, "Yeah." She tried to call my bluff, and I took second place.
Oh, and how old were you when you took second place? You were 17?
17, yeah. And after that, somebody from the comedy trap saw me, and it never stopped. I dropped out of high school. I said, "Let's roll, nigga."
You said the comedy trap. What's the comedy trap? Was that a comedy club in Buffalo?
It was a local club in Buffalo, but they had like a little chain where you can go like and perform in like maybe 6 or 7 little ski lodges. And like I remember when I was in high school, and my mom's made a deal. She said, as long as you get your butt on that school bus at 7 in the morning, go do your comedy. Man, I'll be at ski lodges, man, coming home drunk at 4 in the morning. I got to get up and go to school.
Wow.
So let me ask you this.
Tell her, because you know the older comics let you drink. You don't tell, you know.
And let me ask you this, and I'll turn it over to Johnny. I'm sure he has a question. In what part of Buffalo did you grow up in? And describe the area you grew up in.
That's actually what I was going to, yeah.
Well,
you think, brother.
I'm from Cold Springs, on the east side of Buffalo. Cold Springs is where James Johnson is from. For those who don't know who James Johnson is, I'm Rick James, bitch. I grew up in it was a real tough neighborhood. For those of you that know Buffalo, New York, it's like I'm gonna give it like maybe every 2 houses is a vacant lot. You know what I'm saying? It's like crime everywhere. I grew up like most kids. You know, my father, he was a drug addict. He was on first cocaine, and then in the late 80s got hooked on crack. But my mom, she held it down. She kept a job. But my neighborhood was bad, man. We used to get jumped all the time. You know, and they'd take your food stamps and stuff. But, you know, it made you a tougher dude, you know.
So, and how many, what was the makeup with the siblings as far as, did you?
Well, in my house, it was just me and my brother.
Okay.
But my father had a whole bunch of other niggas. It's like my brother, Jamie, he got shot in the face of the drug deal. He lived, though. My brother Ronald, I don't know, and my sister, she got murdered by her boyfriend.
Wow. And do you, for you, Steve, was comedy an escape for you? Is that what kind of led you to comedy?
Yeah, nigga. It's an escape right now. Hold on, let me go get high during a commercial. Yes, it's an escape. That's why we need to get this pandemic over, nigga. I gotta make some white folk laugh, nigga.
But I mean, at that age, were you conscious of it? Was that the thing that took you out of?
Yes, it got me out of the hood. It showed me shit, man. Comedy at 17 got me out of Cold Springs. Rick James used to have a song called "Bustin' Out," and nobody knew that song was about getting the fuck out of Buffalo, but that's what it was about.
Wow.
So comedy let me bust out at 17. By the time I was 19, I was living out here in LA, man.
Whoa, wait a minute.
I was just gonna
wait a minute. You started when you were 17 and you started traveling when you were 17?
Yes, nigga.
How? Like, explain that.
Well, I got into the comedy trap and then I won the Funniest Man in Western New York contest by like August. I started in January and I won in August. And it was just like gigs. It was a thing called Funny Business, and they would just book you on little gigs in the area.
Wait. I'm sorry to cut you off. So you're only doing comedy 8 months, and you won a competition and immediately started touring?
But only in Western New York, not nationally, dude. Just in Western New York. Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, Funny Business Agency?
Yeah, it's the same one that was around. Yeah, that's running now. Yeah, but yeah.
I know.
Wow. I mean, I think me and Johnny both, I think all of us, which is really interesting. I had a lot of early success also. Like I always joke around with Johnny is, you know, I started touring before I should have been touring. You know, I got
me too. I toured with 20
first TV spot. I think it was just about a year into doing comedy. You know, it was BET Comic View. So Steve, when you're traveling around Western New York, what level did they have you at? Were you hosting? Were you featuring?
It's just like now. It will always be like a group of 4 comics in the car, and we would just go. And you know, sometimes I would host, sometimes I would be second. I would never close because you know it would always be one of the big guy, the head honchos, whoever was around the longest, were closed. And I was just, as long as I got my spot and my $25 and a drink, and some young white chick would let me make out with her when I'm 17 and shouldn't be in there, I didn't give a fuck.
Wait, so that's you being underage. That was never an issue at any of the clubs that you went to?
Let me tell you something, dude. You know what I used to do? I used to take an eyeliner and color in my mustache. Yeah, you ever fuck up a girl's shirt with some shit? Oh, my bad, bitch.
Hey, so you're using the eyeliner back then to give yourself facial hair, and now you're using the eyeliner now to cover up the grays.
I was just thinking.
Full circle, brother. It's full circle. You know what I'm saying?
It's full circle, man.
It always come back. It always come back.
You got it, Johnny?
Oh, wait. I didn't hear you. You went out.
I said, do you have anything you want to ask him?
No, I mean, I was going to ask about the same thing with the tour, but I get it. It was in those areas. But when you got out to LA, what was when you initially got out, what was the scene like then? I mean, besides the main clubs, we know the big three were obviously here, and then there was the Ice House over there, but were there rooms? Were there a lot of rooms to go work?
No, but when I first got out here in '89, it was like culture shock, man. This shit was like, I was more starstruck than being in competition with cats. You know what I'm saying? Because I remember performing at Zeno's at the airport with a nigga that I ended up working with later. So DL was there, Lamont Johnson, who used to crack me up. This motherfucker would put on some jeans, take his jeans off, and have on a whole mini skirt and be dressed like Tina Turner, man.
Wow.
Tommy Davidson. So on the show it was DL, TK Kirkland, Tommy Davidson, and Lamont Johnson performing at Zeno's. And Ronaldo Ray brought me out there to show me around. He was like my mentor when I first moved out here.
Wow.
So he brought me out. I ain't tell you the time when they started shooting the club and the nigga left me, but that's another story. But
oh, we got to get to that one.
Yeah.
I looked up, this nigga was gone. I was on the floor. But anyway, so it was DL Hughley at Zeno's, and I saw all these cats perform, and I was a little, overwhelmed because I'm like, I'm 17, and then they bring me to the comedy store.
You were 19 at that point though when you came to.
Yeah, 19 at that time. Yeah, 18 going on 19, and I came out here. You see these cats, man, and then somebody took me to the Comedy Act Theater, and it was just like. I was looking at it like I was just overwhelmed. I got a chance to perform at the Comedy Act. I did all right.
But here's what's interesting for me. Like Johnny came to Los Angeles from Tulare. I was born and raised here, and I hadn't even begun to do stand-up comedy, and you had already come to my city and performed.
That's crazy.
But my question is, Steve, what prompted you to come to LA in the first place at 19 years old? Like, what was the thing that said that? Because you were obviously for 2 years, you had been going around the West Coast.
My Uncle Donald Curie was like, the only way you're gonna make it is New York or LA. Period.
Yeah. Why did you choose LA though?
Yeah, you were right there in New York.
You were right there. New York was right there.
Cause I grew up in New York. Remember, I lived in Buffalo, but I used to spend my summers in New York. I've seen New York. I want to do it with the West Coast.
So how did you?
I heard Richard Pryor lived out here, and I thought maybe I could meet him. And I was a kid. I was dumb. I figured if I meet Richard Pryor, he see me. I'm gonna help this nigga, but that ain't how it worked.
But Steve, how at 19 years old did you save money? Did you have an apartment? Did you drive? Like, tell us.
Here's a true story. I saved up $300, and I had $500 limit on my credit card. And I told my mother I was going to just stay in a homeless shelter and figure it out. She's like, no, the fuck you ain't. So her and my aunt Sharon got together and started calling everybody they knew. And I found they introduced me to the Garrett family. It was Mr. and Mrs. Garrett. I used to live in 1,000 Oaks when I first moved out here. I didn't live in the hood. I lived in 1,000 Oaks in 1989. And
but wait a minute. Back then, wasn't it 100 Oaks?
Okay.
All right. Sorry. Hey, come on. All right. Go ahead.
100 Oaks.
405 was a street. Shut the fuck up, nigga.
Anyway, I'm sorry. You're living with. I don't want to interrupt this. I'm sorry.
I just lived in the Thousand Oaks, and I used to go to my shows from there. Mr. Garrett family took care of me, so that's how I had a place to stay.
Okay.
And how long did you stay in LA the first time from 19 years old? Because Steve, when I started, you weren't in California. I didn't see you on the circuit.
No, less than a year, dude. It was rough, man. I mean, I lived in a Thousand Oaks. I didn't have a car. I performed 3 times in a year.
Oh yeah.
I performed at the Laugh Factory, only because Eddie Brill came out here. Eddie Brill was living out here at the time, who used to book Letterman.
Mm-hmm.
He's a cool cat. He hooked me up. He got me at the Laugh Factory and the Comedy Store, and then somebody else got me up at the Comedy Act.
Oh
wow! I ran out of money. I just said, I apologize to the Garrett. I mean, they gave me a whole bunch of opportunities, man. I lived off of them for like 3 months. I didn't have no money, and they just took care of me. And then finally, my plane ticket. After then, you had like a year to use the last ticket, and I knew I wasn't gonna make it in a month, so I said I'm gonna go home.
Wow. What I'm surprised about is why didn't you go down if you were in? Well, I mean, it's not that close, but over in Encino was the LA Cabaret, which is where I started.
No idea. I didn't know. I only knew, when you first move out here, you only know the Comedy Store and the Laugh Factory.
Man, dude.
Union. I didn't even know the Improv was out here, to be honest. And that's crazy. I didn't know about the Improv. I knew the Improv in New York. I didn't know LA had one.
Yeah.
Wow.
And actually, then when you were out there was 2. There was Melrose and there was one in Santa Monica.
See what I'm saying? So
man, LA Cabaret, dude, because it was the only comedy club in the Valley, and a lot of the bigger comics from over in the West Hollywood, a lot of them did not want to go over to the Valley, so the opportunities.
I would have had love to.
Dude, that would have been yeah.
So Johnny was the LA Cabaret the first place you had gone on when you came to LA? Yeah,
that's where I did my very first open mic.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, it's not there anymore, but it's around for a while. But because a lot of the comics over the hill in West, on Sunset and Melrose, a lot of those comics did not want to go all the way over to Encino. So the opportunity for the up and coming comics was fantastic at the LA Cabaret.
Now, at that time, Johnny, at the Cabaret, were they getting crowds? Because I remember at one point they closed down, and then remember they reopened later, and then that's when because you get to a point in your career where you're just trying to get more spots, and then I remember Frazier telling me, "Hey, man, the LA Cabaret opened back up," and I'm like, "LA Cabaret?" He's like, "Yeah, it used to be open in the early 90s or whatever.
80s or 80s into the 90s, yeah.
Yeah, 80s into the 90s.
I'd love to have met Frazier back then.
Oh man, Frazier was huge back then.
Like, I heard him and Davey they used to run this motherfucker.
What'd you say, Johnny?
But Frazier looks the same.
I know, huh?
He's kind of got that Steve Martin thing where it's rare to catch a photo or an image of Steve Martin looking like young.
He's the Frazier's the white Morgan Freeman. Morgan Freeman has looked the same age for 30 plus years.
I would love to see Frazier in a sweatsuit or some shit like that. You know what I'm
saying? Frazier is great. So let's talk about this, Steve. So you left LA after 3 months, being 19 and just no transportation, everything. How did you feel when you went back home? Did you feel like you had failed? Or you just said, let me put
I was going back to move to New York. I was moving to New York. The next plan was to move to New York if I didn't make it there. So I was going to move back to New York and start there.
When you say New York, when you say New York, you're talking about New York
City. Yeah.
Okay. And is that what you did at 19?
I went home. Well, I went home and made some mistakes, and and then people do things, and you make some mistakes. I didn't go to jail, but I made some mistakes, and.
Yeah. What mistakes did you make, Steve?
We're not going to talk about that. It was my past. I did some things in my past.
Can you give us something that's not like the least out of all the bad things?
Yeah. Here's the thing, Steve. Everybody's made mistakes. Nobody is judging you. And anything that you did, people are probably going to find out anyway if you make it.
Oh, yeah. All right. So, okay, I sold some drugs. and you know.
Okay. Johnny did too, dude. So like,
oh,
my bad. I didn't know we were snitching. My bad. Oops, my bad.
Ruben.
I'm just kidding. Mr. Sanchez, if you listen to this podcast, I'm just playing.
No, we don't have to worry about my parents listening. It's the other family members.
Oh. Johnny never sold drugs.
Anyway, so
yeah, and then it was always a plan to move to New York to move my career forward. But in the meantime, I messed around and got a radio gig and did radio from 91 through 94 on WBOK, and then I left that.
Where was WBOK?
In my hometown, Buffalo. I just got lucky being a hometown comedian. The funny thing is I was opening up for Salt and Pepper was supposed to be coming to Buffalo, and they got canceled, and then the Rude Boys was coming.
Oh, wow.
They needed a comedian to come, so I opened up for the Rude Boys, and I ripped that shit. Dude, right off the bat, dude was like, yo, you want a job? And I was like, you bullshit like that?
Wow.
So I was on the radio for 3 years because of the Rude Boys.
Now, you just made me think of this, and I'm sure Johnny's probably thinking the same thing. So as a comic, being on the radio, were you on like the morning show or what? So how popular were you in your hometown? And how did that affect your comedy career?
Yeah.
And well, I was very popular in my hometown, and it hurt my comedy career because it made me get comfortable being home and not want to grow. You know, I would just go up to a nightclub at 2 a.m. with some sweatpants on, smelling like weed, and go home with the girl that everybody been trying to holler at. You know, and it made my jokes very hacky because all the jokes is about trying to get girls. You know, you ever see the comic on stage? All you talking about dudes eating pussy. He just talking to the women. He ain't telling jokes. This motherfucker up there pitching woo. He has no talent. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I get what you're saying. So at that age, you were so young that you just enjoyed the perks of being popular in town and stopped really working on trying to be a good comic.
No growth from 91 to 99. There was no growth in my comedy. Not a drop of growth.
Wow.
But there was no growth.
Go ahead, Johnny.
No, you. What did you say? There was something, but no. I didn't hear what he said.
Oh, I said I fucked everybody, but there was no growth.
So you're a womanizer from 91 to 99.
Yeah.
Okay.
Give or take a year or two. Yeah.
But here's the thing, Steve. So when I met you and the people that I knew that knew you, you were kind of known as a road warrior. When did that phase of your career started? Because I used to hear about you, like you'd go from city to city, you would host, you would feature, you would headline, you were just constantly on the road. And, you know, from me and Johnny's perspective, like we went on the road as features and then as headliners. We never like traveled out of state to host shows. So how did this road warrior just on the road so many weeks a year start for you?
Just being hungry, man. Like, period. If you want to eat, you have to work 52 weeks a year. I mean, I used to say to cats all the time, man, when they would call me warrior, I'm like, no, y'all make it seem like that's some cool. I'm not that lucky where I can chill. I have to go out.
Was this after you the radio gig was over that you felt like, okay, I need to hit the road?
Yes and no. After the radio gig ended, believe it or not, it lasted about 5 years before I started. Because I lived off of those perks for about 5 years. Like, you know, every time a concert would come in town, I would hit that lick. And I could still go out on do little local gigs where I can always pay my bills. But there was no growth. But until I moved on, then I could start seeing some growth.
What made you move on, Steve? That's what I'm trying to get to. Like, what was the thing you were comfortable? You were doing the radio show. The radio show is over. What was the thing that made you say, did you just, exhaust all the opportunities locally where you felt like I got to leave now? Like, because going on the road, as Johnny could tell you, people don't know, it's not always glamorous and not always fun. And sometimes it is just a gig. So for you to just say, I have to do this. What pushed you to be a road warrior? Well, I can't relate to it on that level.
Well, first of all, I do believe that comics are born. Like you can become a comic and do, but you're born into this. Like I was born to do this shit. This is what I'm started. I'm talking about. I've seen comics that I know that have never been an MC on the road. Like I've MC'd literally, like you said, travel where I would like go on the road. Like I would have a tour where I would do 13 weeks straight, and at least 4 of those weeks would be me MCing somewhere.
Mm.
And then a couple other would be featuring somewhere, and a couple would be headlining. It might be a college year, or it might be like a birthday party. I've done it all. I've done, you hear people joking. I've done the strip shows, or you in the back where you open up for the strippers. I've done it all.
Okay,
but that made me really want to do it was literally I went to a talent competition, and I was just trying to be, the guest performer so I could meet some girls, being a dick, and one of the comics named Sheldon Johnson pulled me aside and said some shit that rocked my world. He said, "Man, you funny as hell. Why are you in Buffalo?" And I was like, "Huh?" He's like, is that all you want?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, I'm not trying to be in your business, but all you want is pussy." And I was looking stupid because I was like, he was like, "What's that gonna do for you in 10 years?" And I was like,
right.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me say, I went home and I came up with a plan that I was gonna move to LA. So I called out all my favorites, and that's how I became the house MC at the Orlando Improv to save money to move to LA.
Okay, two things. So you had that conversation with Sheldon post radio show, right?
Yeah.
And I have a question for Johnny because we're all being transparent. Like, I went through the phase when you're doing comedy and you start to become popular, and then you have access to women, and you take advantage of that. John, did you ever go through that phase where? Because it seems like most comics, go through the phase where where you're out, you're killing, and you're chasing women. You know what I mean?
I remember. Specifically at the Comedy Store, because it was like it is back again now, the way it's packed on Fridays and Saturdays or whatever. But the two shows, there would be the early show at 8 o'clock and then the 10 o'clock. So, but everybody had to exit the back door, which is through the hallway at the Comedy Store back in where the back parking lot.
Parking lot.
Do our sets and then purposely stand right there.
Yes.
With literally throwing the net out. We used to call throwing the net out. Yeah. The girls would walk by, they'd be like, "Hey, weren't you? Oh my God, look, it's the guy that was." I'm like, "Oh, hey, yeah, what's up?" And then it was off to, and this is when, of course, still in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was still a lot of people walking up and down the Sunset Strip and bar hop. There was still bar hopping going on then. So it was always like, let's go down to, Dublin's. We'll go with you. We'll take you. We'll show you guys. Yeah. So we talk about, and then of course, the road speaks for itself, doesn't it? The road.
Yeah.
The road is totally different. It's so much easier because you're coming into town, and whether you're in Des Moines or you're in Columbus, Ohio, or you're coming in and if you have credits at that point.
Oh my goodness.
Comedy Central, HBO.
ET, them draws coming down.
Yes. It was just a super easy. Now again, just want to make it clear. It would always be me standing in the, I'd be minding my own business.
All right.
Say hi. I just want you to come hang out with me for the rest of the night. I'm just just making this clear. So I got my daughter right here. Yeah. But she's got headphones on. So
Steve, what a lot? There was a few comedy clubs I remember traveling. When I started headlining, that would have a house MC, but a lot of clubs did not have a house MC. How did you get the gig of being at the house MC at the Orlando Improv, and why did you take that gig? What was that conversation like?
Well, it was several very, very, I'm gonna say the universe lined up. It was supposed to happen. One of my brothers had just moved to Orlando and got the morning show job. He's on a radio show there, and they was opening up an Orlando Improv. So here's a long story to take it back to the Comedy Trap days. I was working at the Comedy Trap, and the Funny Bone moves to Buffalo. So my buddy that I'm on the radio was like, "Yo, dude, you got to get it with the Funny Bone." I said, "Nah, I'm not messing with the Funny Bone. I'm loyal to the Comedy Trap. They feed me." He like, "No, you got to mess with this chain because they everywhere." And again, I say, "No, we not." So then he comes to me later with a proposal like, "Yo, the Funny Bone want to do a comedy show." And I said, "I can't do this." He said, "We just won't use your name." I'm like, "Bet." These fools put my name on it and get me fired.
Fired from the Comedy Trap?
Yeah. So I called Lee Hurlins, who was one of the owners of the Improv in Cleveland, who's part owner of the Funny Bone in Buffalo, and said, "Guess what? You just adopted me." And he was like, "What do you mean?" I said, "You put it in the paper." And I said it just like this. I want 30 dates in Funny Bones because y'all just got me fired from my 10 dates. But I want 30 dates. And he did it.
Really?
Wow.
Nigga. He did it. And I was like, yo. So after they did it, I got it good. I was like, yo, and I want to move to Orlando. Then they did it.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, but they didn't pay for nothing. They just gave me the job. They didn't pay for nothing. They just let me be the house MC.
Wow. So, and how long were you the house MC in Orlando?
Just for 1 year. I just need to save some money to move out here.
Gotcha. Well, I know Johnny probably has thought about this. What a poignant name for a comedy club, the Comedy Trap.
I was wondering because I'd never heard of this club.
Me neither. Me neither.
Comedy Trap.
In fact, you know, I might have a picture while y'all doing. I might have a picture of me performing there.
Because there's some clubs you just don't get their names. You know, like I think wasn't there like a Yuck Yucks before, or
Yuck Yucks is still in Canada. It's a big chain.
Oh, they're still good. Oh, they're still around.
Huge chain.
Oh, I didn't know that. I don't go out. I didn't go out there.
So Steve, being in Buffalo, and Johnny brought up Yuck Yucks. Since Buffalo is right there at the Canadian border, when you were a young comic, were you going into like Toronto doing shows?
I don't know if y'all can see the sign where it says the Comedy Trap in the back. That's me performing at 17 at the Comedy Trap. You might not be able to see it.
Wow. Oh, I see the trap. Yeah, the bottom of the. I see it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you had a tie on, a shirt and a tie?
No. That's just me being skinny. That's the actual shadow.
Oh, okay.
Cord. That's the mic stand.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. It looked like a tie. Okay.
But you're wearing a long sleeve dress shirt and slacks.
Well, you got to realize I used to look up back then. I used to look up to Arsenio and Seinfeld, and they used to wear and that was probably the summertime, so I probably just took the suit jacket off.
Wow.
Oh, wow. And how old were you in that photo?
That picture right there is 17.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. By the time I was 18, they closed the Comedy Trap down. They was drug addicts, but it's a long story.
So did you ever go into Toronto and do shows into Toronto since they were so close to Buffalo?
Of course, Niagara Falls, Hamilton, Burlington, Fort Erie. I used to perform. Actually, here's a great story. Chris Rock, me, Jim David, and Chris Rock, 1989, performing at. They used to have it wasn't Yuck Yucks, but it was it wasn't a comedy club, but it was another comedy club in Niagara Falls, and it was inside of a turtle. So this was Chris Rock was about. It was inside of a building that looked like a turtle in Niagara. If you ever been to Niagara Falls, you know that building that looks like a turtle in Niagara Falls. They had a comedy club in there.
Okay.
So we're performing in there, and Chris Rock is walking the audience because his jokes are so raw, man. Back then, this dude. He said, he was talking about Native Americans. He had a joke where he said, "Well, back then when back then when y'all was killing them, oh my God, half of the white people started getting up leaving." I was in the back jealous, like, yo, I want this. Oh my God, I love this dude.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. I was raw back in '89, dude.
The first time I saw Chris Rock was on a special that Eddie Murphy produced. Uptown Comedy, and it was Chris Rock, Barry Sobel, Arsenio Hall, I believe Robert Townsend, and Marsha Warfield closed. And Yeah, I just remember, Chris opened and he went first. And the actual order was Chris, Barry, Robert, Arsenio, Marcia. And it was
all of them became big stars.
Yeah, that was when Barry Sobel used to go, I can't do it no more.
Yeah, he got on 227 because of that.
You said what?
He got on 227 because of that.
Wow. Yeah. And that was, when you really think about it, that was in comedy's heyday, because I remember, being in school and seeing that and wanting to do comedy. That's why I always find it fascinating, because, we're friends. We've been friends for a long time. That whenever I meet somebody who started, like even when I met Chappelle, who started at 16 years old, like it's always fascinating to me. Like my parents would have never, I wouldn't even have that option to go to a comedy club that
right.
year. How about you, Johnny?
No. There's no way.
No way. No way.
What's crazy though is I used to be jealous of Chappelle because he used to be on Comedy Central as a kid, and I'm out there. I'm like he was like maybe I'm gonna say 17, 18. I'm already in my 20s, and I'm seeing this dude on Comedy Central. I'm like, God damn, how did he get there already?
First time I saw Chappelle was on MTV, on MTV Half Hour Comedy Hour, and Mario Joyner used to host the show. And I thought Mario was absolutely hysterical. Mario's still so funny and a great writer. Shout out Mario Joyner.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember seeing Chappelle on that going, wow. Because the first time I had met Chappelle when I first started, he was with Dave Edwards from the first season of The Real World. Some people might remember Dave Edwards from the show The Real World.
I used to do some open mics with Dave back in the day, by the way.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Dave had brought Chappelle down to the Comedy Act Theater, and I had met Dave there, and Dave was very complimentary. And I remember I was dating somebody at the time. They're like, why are you so happy that he complimented you? I'm like, he's on TV. I've seen him on TV before. It was just a crazy thing. Because even though I thought, when I saw D.L. Hughley for the first time, I thought he was the funniest human being I'd ever seen in my life, because I had never seen anybody perform live stand-up before. D.L. was the first comedian I'd ever seen perform live.
Wow.
Ever. Everything that I'd seen comedy-wise was on television or listening to it.
Tell me what I said to you. Remember you were sitting there after
Yeah, so here's my story, Steve. So I used to go in the barbershop and kill people in the barbershop all the time. Then they used to say, man, you should do comedy. You should do comedy. Quit coming in here messing with us. You need to go on stage.
Right.
So my barber at the time, Tracy Prince, shout out Tracy Prince, he knew a lady by the name of Donna Chavu, who promoted a night at the Birdland West in Long Beach.
Right.
And I didn't know anything about it. You got to understand, when I first heard about it, I wasn't even old enough to go. So when I had finished playing ball, he hooked up. When I turned 21, I went to Birdland just to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember the place was jam-packed. And in my mind, Steve, you got to understand, me and Johnny have talked about this extensively. When you've never seen live comedy before, and then you come to a place that's completely jam-packed, like it's the place to be, you're thinking, how the hell did I not know this existed?
Right.
Like, wait a minute, people are going out and watching comedy at a place. And I saw DL, dude, and I remember I saw DL, I saw Buddy Lewis, I think it was TK Kirkland, all on one show. But I just remembered all of them. I thought all of them they all blew my mind, because I only knew Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy, Flip Wilson, Red Fox.
Right.
And I was like, how could these guys who nobody knows can be that funny? Like, how is that even possible? Then after the show, I'm literally sitting there mesmerized. The lights are on. I'm sitting in my seat. DL's like a politician. He's, thanking everybody for coming out. And then he comes up to me. He just comes straight to me and he goes, did you enjoy the show? And I go, yeah. And he goes, good, man. I said, I'm thinking about doing this. And he looked at me and said, you should do it, man. And I said, I think I am. And then a few years later, I came back, and the Birdland West was the first place I'd ever performed. And it was a hood room too, yo.
No, I know.
It was. They used to call it the Apollo of the West, man, because you'd go to Birdland. Snoop Dogg and all them would go to the Birdland. Like it was dope and thugged out at the same time, man. And if you wasn't funny, they would get your ass up off the stage quickly.
Like 559 down there in the South, and then what was that joint in Jersey, Bill Bellamy's club that Bob Sumner used to have?
The Peppermint Lounge. The Peppermint Lounge, yeah. And then there was clubs like that, and that's why. And me and Johnny have talked about this before. When I started working mainstream rooms, there was a sense of relief.
Yes.
You didn't. There was no threat of getting your ass beat if you didn't do well. No one was gonna. I mean, at Birdland, they used to throw glasses at people on stage. Yeah. So when I first went to the Laugh Factory, I remember thinking like, wait a minute. No one's gonna yell out and interrupt me. Like they're gonna listen to everything. You're not gonna hear, nigga, get off the stage. You're not gonna hear that.
Rules. They got rules. I remember the first time they told me to do 15 minutes and I did 25, and then they docked my check. I was like, what the fuck is going on? It's like,
whoa.
You come up, but the funny bone one play, you come off in 15 minutes and you make sure you hit the announcements or we take the money. Wow. And then I learned the rules.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was where? Where was that?
That was the Buffalo Funny Bone.
Oh, the Funny Bone. Okay.
Yeah. Like here's what's crazy about that story Rube was telling. And did you hear the excitement, how he was talking about how the room was packed and that energy? Here's what people don't even understand, that less than 10% of the United States has been to a comedy club. How is that possible?
Wow.
Less than 10%. Everything they see is on TV. Less than 10%. They've been to the movies. They done been to play comedy. Purest form, and less than 10% has ever been to a comedy club.
Wow. I never
you type that question and ask how many motherfuckers have actually been to a live comedy club.
I remember, well, it's funny, and we all can attest to this. Like I'm sure we've done tons of shows where, afterwards they're like, hey, this is my first time ever to a comedy club. And we're like, what?
Yeah.
Your first time? Like you're in your 30s. And then they get hooked though. A lot of people, when they go to a comedy club for the first time, I think, and maybe this is just being hopeful as a comedian, I kind of feel like once people go to a comedy club for the first time, they kind of add that into their list of to-do things.
It's part of their life.
You know what I mean?
But you realize it's date night times 2. There's conversation, and it's a movie that is live. There's food. I mean, it takes the whole entertainment experience. It takes everything.
Go ahead, Johnny. You're going to say something.
Yeah, and also what's funny about running into people that tell you it's our first time here. Also, I always noticed that I would always get people come up going, we come here all the time and we really enjoyed, you're one of our favorite, or whatever, or hey, we also love so-and-so. So it's like you said, once they start, it becomes part of their routine.
Yeah.
And that makes sense at only 10% because a lot of them are repeat comedy customers.
I always say this, and maybe we should say it more, and it's kind of ironic that we're in the middle of this pandemic right now, but I just always encourage people, like when this thing is over and you feel safe, go out to see live comedy. There's no comparison to watching comedy online than in person. Obviously, right now we're limited in what we can do. So get comedy where you can. There's a lot of great virtual shows that are popping up online. Support those. But I'm telling you, people, once it's safe and once you have the opportunity, there's nothing like live comedy, and both Johnny and Steve can attest to that.
That's a fact.
Yeah,
it's just a different energy. So, Steve, we're getting towards the end of the podcast now, but so you went back. You were a house MC at the Orlando Improv. What became your move to Los Angeles? What was the final catalyst for you getting to Los Angeles?
Just saving the right amount of money. I mean, plus I was in Orlando, and me and my lady had just broken up, so it was really time to go anywhere. I had set a plan that I was going to be there for a year, but me and my lady was doing good. So I was like, I might chill for a little bit, see if I can move her out there with me. And we broke up, so it was time to go anyway. So I had saved the amount of money that I needed. So that's all it was.
Okay. And then I know, that's when we became friends, when you moved to Los Angeles. And then I remember you calling me one day saying, hey, man, I'm moving to New York. And I was like, when? And you're like, next week. And I was like, what? And this is a good story to end it on. Tell us what happened.
Well, I had been, like you said, I was a road dog. So I was opening up for D.L. Hughley once a month. I always tell a big name comic, they will always ask me to go out with him. I said, I will do once a month. That way I know I can meet my bills, if I'm doing other things. So I was going out with him, and he was getting a radio show, and he knew that I had did radio in the past back in Buffalo. So he asked me, did I want to do it? And I was like, when? And he was like, tomorrow.
Oh, here's the thing.
It was like that.
Let me just say this, Stephen. I'll let you finish the story. If Johnny would have got that phone call, he'd have been like, not doing it. With Johnny, it's this amount of money. I need more time, dude. Johnny would not. I'm telling you, Johnny could have had $5 in the bank. He would not have taken it.
The thing about me, that's one of my problems.
Would not have Are you kidding me? And I'd have been like, Johnny, why didn't you take the gig? Ruben, they called me in less than 24 hours. Johnny, you're broke. Man, I'll figure something else out, man. I'm not doing
he's
that.
Smart. No, he's smart. I'm a jumper.
Woo.
He's smart.
Wait a minute. But didn't that lead to? Did you took off then, right?
Well, I mean, that was the first part. Yeah. It helped me out in New York, and I working in New York, I met so many people and built so many relationships. And even though that job went south, and after it ended, 2 years later, when they offered him his syndicated radio show, naturally he came back to me and asked me, "Do I want to do it again?" And I jumped again. But this time I was like, "I ain't got to move, right?" And they said, "No." So I was like, "Well, I'll do it."
Yeah, because you had already come back to LA and then did the set.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. But Ruben, though,
I did that one for 3.5 years before I couldn't take it no more.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Johnny.
Well, I want to say I've obviously changed through the years, because remember, my friend who was living in LA from my hometown, Steve, he called me and was like, "Hey, we need a roommate. You've always wanted to try comedy." I'm from the San Joaquin Valley, which is near Fresno. It's about 2.5 hours away from LA. And he goes, "You've always talked about doing stand-up. Won't you, we need a roommate." I go, when? And he's like, I need a yes or no by tomorrow. And we're moving in 2 weeks. So I made up my mind. I said yes. I quit my job at a turkey plant at Louis Rich Turkey Meats. And I moved to LA, and I was on my way to LA within like 5-6 days.
But Rube said you wouldn't have did that though. See?
That was 23, 24-year-old Johnny.
Yeah. But here's the great thing about that story, Steve, for Johnny is Johnny took that leap and never moved back home after his father told him, "You'll be back." So I just
awesome.
Yeah, I just always think, and that's and just kind of wrap up this conversation, man. And me and Johnny have talked about this on other podcasts. Is people measure success differently. Like, a lot of people want to have Kevin Hart's success or be a big name or whatever, and a lot of that is timing, and we're still all viable and working and have done well with ourselves, even though we're not household names yet. Mm-hmm. But Dom Herrera told me something that I'll always hold on to, because sometimes we could kind of feel like we're not successful if we're not Kevin Hart. And, we're doing what we love, man. We wake up every day, and before this pandemic, we get to go out at night and do stand-up comedy for a living and not have to work a day job to supplement our bills. You know what I mean? To be able to make a living doing stand-up comedy is a blessing, and that is successful. And I remember Dom telling me, he was like, "You are successful. Don't ever let anybody tell you you're not successful. You've been on TV. You've done stand-up on TV. You're respected by your peers. You don't work a job, Ruben. You're doing what you love. How great is that?
You have the equivalent to a doctorate with your training. And any other job, I mean, you've done this. You have a doctorate in stand-up comedy. There's nothing somebody can't tell you. You could actually teach stand-up comedy if you wanted to.
Totally.
Tell you about being successful, man. I can't wait till you make it, motherfucker. I know what you mean, man. I made it.
Yes,
I made it.
As a matter of fact,
if your level, they might consider success fame. I guess is that what success is?
I think that's what Ruben was alluded. Yes.
Yeah, that's what some people think. Johnny, you're about to say something.
Well, I mean, Steve's journey, man. You should be so proud of yourself, dude. That's a big journey you took. Starting out in Buffalo, coming to LA, then back, and then Orlando, and then New York, and then back in LA. I mean, and you continue to work all the time, and you were doing television, doing radio with DL, doing TV, other movie. We all work on these projects.
Yeah,
that's just huge, dude. I mean, that's a great, amazing journey, man. At 17, I mean, just unbelievable.
And I agree with Johnny 100%, Stephen. And of course, I know you personally. We're close friends, but just with your father and the abuse from your uncle and having a mom that had to hold everything together, and just your journey, Steve. Like, I'm not saying you don't think that you're successful, but, always remind yourself where you came from, and what you've accomplished, because a lot of people that we started out with, all three of us, aren't even doing comedy anymore.
Right. Well, also remember though, when my woman left me, you can get dark on yourself sometimes. It ain't gotta just be, being your success. Life can kick your ass and make you get down and make you look at,
Very true. Very true, man. Well, Steve, where can people find you on social media, on Instagram, Facebook?
Instagram will be Steve Wilson. Twitter is Steve Wilson. And on Facebook, it is comedian Steve Wilson or Steve Wilson Comedy. And hopefully comedy clubs will be open by August and you can catch us somewhere. Or hopefully you'll catch me on a cruise ship on Royal Caribbean somewhere. Or one of these projects we all out here trying to pitch to sell, you'll see us on one of that. But right now, it's all we know, man. We can't quit, man. I mean, stand-up comedy will morph into something else, and it is what it is. I mean, I love it. I'm in for the ride. As you see, 1987, I ain't going nowhere.
Well, before we go, let's say a congratulations to Stan Felton. He says, "This is my last episode of listening to you guys as a single man getting married on Saturday."
Congratulations, Stan.
Congratulations, brother.
Hey, dude. And by the way, Steve, this dude, Stan, he's from my hometown, Tulare, California. Whisper out, Tulare, California. I like saying that because it annoys Ruben. But Stan has listened or watched to every single episode of our 63 episodes.
And we appreciate you, Stan. And Steve, thank you for doing the show, man. I just wanted people to hear your journey. And that's one thing that's great about having a podcast. Like, we know, like a lot of people know the Russell Peters and some of the bigger names that we've had on here. Not trying to
Russell go way back before he was Russell. Too bad we can't talk about that. But
we have to have you back on, Steve. But it's important to people know, man. That there's great comics out there that people might not have heard of or know about. And I just wanted to give you a little shine. So you guys out there listening. Look Steve Wilson up. Steve has one of my favorite jokes about having a roommate and hearing his roommate having sex. I just think it's the execution of that joke is flawless, man. And I think you're a hack. So for me to give you that type of compliment, man, just
hey, by the way, I want to say this. It's so funny because Steve and I would of course you two, Rube, the three of us would see each other a lot at the Long Beach Laugh Factory, right?
Uh-huh.
Sometimes it was like, we'd be like, man, getting tired of driving out here, right? Like, we're closer to Hollywood. I'd rather be there. I'm getting more spots in Long, man, bitch and whine, moaning, pissing and moaning. And now I'm like, I can't wait to drive out.
Oh my God.
I don't care how much traffic there is.
Oh, that ride on the 710, you're going to be crying like.
Dude, I'm going to be like, we're back, man.
to you guys listening, I hope you come out and see live comedy, because as comedians, we cannot wait to perform for you guys again. And I think it's given all of us a new appreciation for live comedy. And Johnny won't complain as much anymore and talk bad about you guys anymore.
I'm not going to complain as much. And first of all, I'm even going to let my pet peeve go, because I know there's going to be a lot of comics running the light.
Yes.
Right? Oh yeah. You know that's going to be a big problem when we get back. And I'm going to push that pet peeve of mine aside.
Yes.
And I'm going to be like, just let him go, man. Let Ruben, let him go. If he's doing 10 more than the light, let him go. Let him go. But also, well, real quick. Oh, I want to tell Stan something. It'd be funny to maybe Stan could do a funny picture of he and his wife kissing each other with masks on.
Go for it, Stan.
Do a regular one, do a real one, and then do one with masks on and gloves, like holding hands and then kiss or something. Try it. It'd be great.
It's a new day and it's a new time.
Yeah. Congratulations, Stan.
Congratulations, Stan. Everybody stays safe out there. Look up Steve Wilson. If you aren't familiar with him, you won't
get familiar.
Yeah, get familiar with them.
It's hilarious.
And once again, thank you guys for supporting the show. Please share it. It's on iTunes. It's on Google Play,
Spotify,
YouTube. Tell people about it.
Swap me.
Yeah, we enjoy doing it for you guys. So we appreciate you guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. This is the best of everything with Ruben Paul and Johnny Sanchez and our special guest, Steve, the one and only Wilson. So thank you guys for listening, and we are out.
Ruby Mother and Tuesdays.
This show is all about diversity and bringing everyone together. You never know who you're going to see at Ruby Tuesdays.